Let's go ahead and take a look at creating a tree from Unity. We're going to use the tree creator that comes built in with Unity. Now, we started off by importing it in a previous version. If you notice in your standard assets folder, if you have this, check to make sure you have tree creator. If you don't have it, in order to make a tree with Unity's tree creator, then be sure to go back up to assets and import package, and then just go down to where you see tree creator and import it. It's going to create the system so that we can actually build stuff with it. So if you have that inside the scene, let's go ahead and go over to our hierarchy and click on the create button. And inside the create button we should see a 3D objects down to the one that says tree. Go ahead and click on tree. What Unity is going to do is create a tree for us, kind of similar to how it does the terrain, is that when you create a tree over in your projects, it is actually creating the tree data over here for you as well. So we have a tree. It's going to start with the trunk. The trunk, if you notice right here, inside of our tree over in the inspector with it selected, we have a tree. If you left click on it, it'll zoom to that part for you. It's just a spline rendered with a geometry going around it, tapering at one point to the other. Inside of it, if you go down below here, we'll go ahead and just kind of take a look at each part of the properties. For Unity, what we're trying to create with a tree is that we create a trunk, we create the limbs that go from it, the branches, and then we create the leaves from that. So we'll have a couple of different processes along the way. The basic start being just this one trunk, you have a lot of different options to be able to create how it works through sliders, so you don't have to go in directly and manipulate it. However, you do have options to select, move, and rotate. You also have freehand tools just simply to draw it out. Up at the very top right here, you'll notice you have move, rotate, and freehand. If you have the move on, you can actually left click on any one of those squares right here, and if you click on one, you can actually start to adjust it and move it around. Now, an important element here is that if you start adjusting the tree like this, you're actually going for a hand editing mode, which means you'll get a box right here, and this is going to say convert to procedural group. If you don't, or if you do at some point, you're going to lose all of your hand adjustments. So if I click on this button, then the box below, all of this becomes available, but that also means I lose what I did here. So you want to know which way you're going to go. Are you going to go by actually creating it by hand, or do you want to do the randomization? The group seed, if you just drag this back and forth, you'll notice that it's just going to randomly create the spline for us in a different area, different context to it. What we're going to do to start with on this one is just have a regular branch going up. There's a frequency. This is how many times you're creating the branch. So if you want, you could actually do something like this just by dragging the frequency over. You can create multiple branches growing up from the ground. This could actually, it doesn't even just have to be a branch, it could be a flower type or plant type that you're creating as well, low shrubs. Alright, we'll take the frequency back to 0 or back to 1. You have a distribution type, which is random, alternate, opposite, or world. All of these are going to just create different types of how things are being created. The growth scale and the angle, and these are also based on curves as well, so you can adjust them that way. Each one gives you the basic elements for it. What we could do though, let's say for instance on the, we'll go ahead and start, we'll just kind of create a simple but a basic looking tree and give all the properties that we need for it. Let's start off with the radius, and we'll go ahead and drag the radius out. Let's take it out to about 2. So we'll give the radius a little bit larger of a trunk towards the bottom right there. If you want to take the crinkleness up, you can. If you notice, you can just kind of create it where instead of being that straight piece, it's just pulling it in a little bit. I'll take it up to about a 0.3 right there. Alright, after you have that one, the nose of it, I believe it's going to be, let's see, there we go. So right at the base of it, you could flare it out a little bit. and then we could actually take the height of the flare a little bit higher. So then you get kind of a little push out right through there. Alright, so it's going to give us a nice little start to our trunk. Now if you scroll back up to the top, let's see, one of the things that we can just kind of take a look at on this one is that the very top right here, this is the trunk, but if we're going to add pieces and elements to it, right on this bar you have add leaves, and you have the add branches. Go ahead and click on an add branch. Now when you add a branch, the branch is added to the top right here. Now if you notice, the branch gets placed down here. You can manually, using your move tool, you can move it up and down. If you move it up and down, remember, you'll lose the random option over here. For this one, if I was to just grab the group seed and I just simply drag this around, when I drag it, all it's doing is randomly placing it on the trunk in different spots. Now the other option I have for it is that I could actually do the frequency. So for instance, the frequency here, let's take this up to about 10, and then all of a sudden we start getting some more limbs being placed out from here. Alright, now you could place, let's actually do about 15, maybe even 20. There we go. So do about 20. The growth scale though, this is how much is, the difference between it. We can kind of take it where it goes big to small, going up to the top. The angle, if you want it to angle upwards instead of just straight downward, you can angle it up. So we'll have a little bit of a growth going upwards for it. If you scroll down, one of the, actually, the distribution, there's a random. Try the alternate. This will kind of give you the idea too that if you want a little bit more of a consistent pattern, you can do alternate and it'll be more of a balance between back and forth versus this one, which is, it could grow in one direction versus the other directions. Alright, so with our branches selected, that means that when we go down here to our shapes and we adjust the shape size, the links, the relative links and things, that's going to be adjusting all of those properties. You could actually make the pieces right here scale up to closer to the size of the parent. So for instance, the ones up here are going to be skinnier because they're based on this one. The ones down here are going to be closer to the ones related to those. And then for the length of it, you could actually scale all of them. So for instance, maybe you don't want it you don't want an extremely long tree, you just want partially long tree here. Here we'll take out about there. Then we get a little bit less of a long branch type of system. Alright, and then again you can do the same type of options for how it actually is being perceived, whether it's being crinkly, whether there's a little bit of a noise pattern to the lines as they go down. Now once you have those, then you can actually go into the next step, which is to create the you actually can do two type. One, you can go here for the branches, and instead of being a branch only for the geometry mode, you can do a branch and a frond, meaning that this is going to be a plane, and the plane would actually hold not necessarily leaves, but it would actually hold like branches coming from the limbs coming out from it. So you could do both ways on it, and we'll do both so you can see them. This one though, if you do the branch and fronds, that means that you now have a fronds options, and you can change the count, but we're going to change the width and drag the width up a little bit wider. That way when we do the texture on it, we'll be able to see the texture really clear with it. Alright, so we could actually go ahead and do the textures here. How about we do that so you can see those. The branch material, if you just click on the option to choose the branch material, you should see the tree we brought in the first time from Unity's is going to be the bark and the branches and the leaves. So the branch material right here, let's see, nope, we want the branch to actually be the bark. So we'll put the bark on those, and then the the frond material, we'll use that as the big tree branches. There we go. So now we have some of those branches coming off from it, and it's just the little smaller pieces to kind of make it feel like it's a little bit more of a lively tree. Alright, so if we go back to our, since we're getting the textures on, let's go ahead and go back to our trunk. And inside of here, the trunk also has the options, so we'll go ahead and go to our branch material and choose it. It'll be the bark. There we go. So now we're starting to get a kind of a fun look to the tree. And then the last thing that we want to add to the tree, so let's go ahead and select it again, is going to be a set of leaves. And also notice that this is only one branch part. You can actually click on your trunk or your branch and continue adding more branches. So when I click the plus button, I'm actually getting 2 sets of branches now, and I can actually set up a whole bunch of other ones doing different things with it. If you want to get rid of it, you can select it, and you can either push the trash can or you can push delete, and it'll get rid of those. Alright, so we have this one. So what we'll put in next then is the, let's go ahead and select the top. So we have our limbs, and let's click on the add leaf group. Alright, so now we have the start of our leaf group, and we can do the frequency. Let's actually increase this a little bit more. So we'll take it up to about 12, like that. And we'll see how that works for us. We can also do, for instance, the size of it. I'm going to increase the size. There we go. And the random value, you can have a larger or smaller increase on it. And then we'll assign our texture to it, and your type for these, they can be billboard or cross or try. It just depends on how much you're wanting to put into it. If you do the cross type is just simply 2 planes going across from each other. So our material type, let's go in here and we'll choose our big tree leaves. There we go. So now we have our tree. We've got some tree leaves on it. Pretty fast, pretty simple. You've got a lot of control. It actually comes down to, as a developer for it, if you're creating a tree, you really want a picture of a tree. Find photographs, go out and take a picture of a tree. Use that as your reference so that you can really understand what type of tree you're looking for, what kind of angles and pieces are you trying to make with it. The tree creator itself is pretty limitless. It's just as far as you want to take it as you can take it with it. So that would be the tree. If you want to put this in the scene we've been currently working on, you can make the tree. Actually, you can do the prefab if you drag the tree and drop it over in our prefabs folder. Then you'll have your tree option that you can actually just drag into your scene. And if you want to keep this tree, then we'll go ahead and push save. We'll go to our level design and scenes, and we'll just call this one tree. And there you go. So that's going to be your basics for using the tree creator inside of Unity.